to my day ones. If you need some, say some. If I'm on the yellow, it ain't nothing for my real one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to my day ones. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to my day ones.
And he didn't always have that. And, there also were the struggles growing up where, I saw them grow a multi-million-dollar company with my dad being an addict the whole time.
Wow.
And so I said, well, if they can do that in 30 years, what can I do in 5? So we'll see. But that's the beauty is that I saw around when I was 10 or 12, like growing up there was, all the money scarcity fears, and their business was starting out, and my mom was pushing me in the stroller, handing out flyers to get word out about their business. But around when I was 10 or 12, something shifted in my dad, and I don't know what it was. And hopefully I'll have the opportunity to ask him. He's currently in the hospital right now, so
Sorry to hear that.
yeah. But thank you. But it was a shift that was really that was palpable, because suddenly I went from like the sales rack at Kmart to being able to actually shop in a mall and to buy nice things. And I was like, what happened? And my dad taught me, he said, Kim, he realized around that time that it takes just as much time, money, and effort to go after $100 client as it does a $10,000 client. So you might as well go after the 10,000, hit a freedom metric and a comfortable lifestyle where you feel more comfortable, and then hire people so that you can then provide jobs. And it was a beautiful experience, seeing them when they just sold their yard that they had purchased, and they had like 15 trucks. They have a tree business out in California. And I was standing in the lot with my dad, and he said, and I was like, Dad, did you ever think that you would build something to this scale? Like, because I was marveling at it, because I'd never really soaked it in to appreciate it. And he said, no. He said, Kim, I started out like borrowing my dad's truck for 10 years. He said, if I did anything differently, I would have hired team faster and brought on people to support me in doing the things that I shouldn't be doing 10 years from now. And also focusing on higher ticket sales. And so that was something that I learned very, very, not early on, but a few years ago in growing Crown Yourself. And I started to go for the higher ticket of sales. And I love private coaching. And there is something for me where, I mean, as a kind of introverted extrovert, I do really well working one-on-one with people, and just having that intimacy of really getting to know and going to town on someone's subconscious mind and seeing all their patterns and all their blocks and all their stuff that they can't see because they're in it. Being able to kind of guide around that and coach into that, it's such a beautiful experience. And the investment that somebody is making, like, it was interesting. I had a mentor who has a $20 million plus company. And she said, you will be amazed at the amount of customer service that is required for an $8 ebook. But she goes, my $10,000, $20,000 clients, there's hardly any management. Like, there's hardly any customer management. But she said the amount of customer requests and service report tickets that we have for, like, I don't know how to open my ebook, is astounding. So the lower the price, typically the higher the customer demand. Support is going, the higher, well, and demand and support is going to be, versus the higher the price. And I've seen this with my high ticket between the coaching clients that I have for my Queen Bee Quickie package, which is like around $4,000, and then my 12-month coaching packages, which are up around $30,000. like the difference in customer support is my lower ticket customers, and 4,000 is not a low ticket. Like that's a good amount of money for a starting entrepreneur, but they still require, I found that they still require much more hand holding, much more support, much more like show me how to do this, give me a little encouragement, versus the one who are able to throw down 30 grand. They have much more resilience and capacity to kind of handle the motivation stuff on their own. I think a lot of times when entrepreneurs are starting out, they're struggling with that resilience, and resilience is a muscle that we have to build as entrepreneurs. So that's and that is just as much a muscle to wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to get it. Yesterday kind of sucked. Today I'm going to go after it. Right. And when you've built your company to a certain level, you have at least a certainty and trust in that you will wake up the next day and go after it and get it, and that whatever happened the day before, whatever failures happened, that it's not going to crush you, versus the amount of time it takes to get back up after a failure or a loss is much harder at a lower income. Is what I found, is that there definitely is a time factor that I've seen in entrepreneurs. So going after the higher ticket, going after higher dollars, so that you hit a freedom metric, so that you, and by freedom metric I mean a monthly metric that you're comfortable with, that you're able to pay all your bills, that you're able to maybe pay your team member, maybe hire a virtual assistant, but hitting a metric that allows you a lifestyle where you feel comfortable, where you're not lacking, so that then you can go to the next stage of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you're not just like fighting to eat.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point, because I see that in a lot of entrepreneurs. They take basically their only means of living and try to make this one shot. If I don't get it, I don't know where my next meal is going to come from, and they end up not getting it the way they thought they planned, and now they have to put their business or whatever on the back burner instead of going for that bigger ticket, like you said. And now the money that they put forward, they got residual income to keep supporting them through the months.
Yeah. And also the beauty of that. Oh, go ahead, Levante.
Oh, no. Yeah, go ahead. You go.
Well, and also it's like the one shot mentality, it works for a short time. So that's really operating off of our fight or flight sort of sympathetic nervous system. So in my coaching, I work a lot with the somatic work, like, so the body as well, because your body is one of the greatest tools as an entrepreneur, and it's so underutilized for most people.
Right.
And so when you're working with that fight or flight mechanism, it works for a short time, but depending upon your capacity to handle trauma, and that can be from, like, if you experience developmental trauma growing up, sometimes your capacity is less to handle a higher amount of stress. So that sort of motivation of fight or flight, I got this one shot, I got to go for it. If I fail, then, that it's ruin. That sort of mentality, it can work, but it normally only works in the short term. So it's doesn't work for that long-term longevity, long game sort of strategy, versus having something where you're able to operate more from that parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. So if you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you have your food, your water, your shelter, your rest covered, so that you can at least be at the next stage, so that you can at least focus less on those like basic needs and basic fears, that actually allows you greater rest and comfort to be able to go for that next step. But it is a shift, and it is depending upon your motivational strategy, and it is a longer term strategy, operating in one that oscillates, so that you're okay with, okay, so I had a low month, like, okay, so that low month happened, okay, I know I can have a high month again. So there's not as much Instead, it's like rolling hills instead of peaks, like gigantic peaks and valleys.
Mhm.
I
So how do
like
you?
that point. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was, yeah, I was just gonna say, how do you help someone make that mental shift? Because as an entrepreneur, we go through that one problem that like makes us think, I don't know if this is for me. So how can somebody make that mental shift like that?
So I always go back to the body of first I start with getting someone to breathe, of
Mhm.
just activating your parasympathetic nervous system on a physical level. And to do that, it's a longer exhale to your inhale. So just starting to breathe. Like I already feel calmer. Like just breathing, like
It's
just a
good.
deep breath or two, because there is that stimulation that comes from, wanting to perform, wanting to show up for your audience. Like there is that activation. So being able to breathe and bring it down also allows for that centeredness, to find that centeredness. Once you're in that place of centeredness and able to breathe, then I would ask, where do you normally feel certainty and trust in your body? And so sometimes people are so out of touch with their body that they don't know where they feel that. And so they're like, oh, I don't know, like whatever. So I would ask, what is one area in your life where you feel so certain, where you feel like you've got that handled, it is done. And for one of those areas for me, it's my marriage. Like my husband, like the idea of him cheating on me or leaving is so it's laughable, because it's like it's so foreign. It's not even an option. Like it's ridiculous. Like that man is the most loyal, awesome, amazing human. And so when I find that certainty, like, where do I find that certainty? When I talk about my marriage, where do I feel that? So in a place where you feel really confident, really certain, it could be, and sometimes it's kind of hard to find. But maybe it could be in your talent. Maybe it could be in your ability to whip up a website real fast. Maybe it's in your ability to deliver a kick-ass podcast episode. Maybe it's in your exercise routine. Maybe it's in your discipline. So sometimes it's not necessarily a tangible thing or a personified thing. Maybe it's in your parenting as to how you show up for your kids. Like, but what area in your life do you feel really, really certain, and you have such a foundation of trust where it's like, if anything, like it's practically unshakable. And so that then take that is part of your success. Take that, and then where do you feel that in your body? Like when you feel the feelings, when you're in the space of thinking about the thing that makes you feel really trusting, really certain that, like, of course my husband's going to wake up next to me tomorrow. Though sometimes he does sleep in the other room with our son. But I'm like, of course my husband's going to be here tomorrow. Like I am so certain that he is going to like wake up, like he's cooking breakfast right now. I'm so certain of that. And I have that certainty and that trust. And so when I have that certainty and trust, I can feel that in my body. And then when you think about your business or whatever that problem is that you're struggling with, where are you feeling that? Because the difference is you want to be able, like, I know that when I feel stress, for example, I get stressed and suddenly I feel it around my throat. Like I feel like choking. I feel like, oh my God, like this is oh my gosh, this is like a next level thing. And I know that when it drops down from the throat through the heart into the solar plexus and into my gut, oh, there's no stopping me. But it has to sink. And so sometimes it depends on where it lives in your body. Sometimes it has to rise up. Sometimes but it's allowing and understanding and using your body as a tool for the feeling to find where you can find certainty and trust in yourself, in anything, in your capacity to figure it out. And when you can find that certainty and trust, then you can make that move and take that next step, and the problem will probably solve itself, or you'll find the solution, or you'll find a resource, or you'll pivot your business. I mean, a lot of my clients, of course, last year had a ton of uncertainty and stress and problems, and people had to completely pivot their businesses from live businesses like event planners and course instructors who taught live courses into an online model. And when we worked together on cultivating that certainty and trust, it was finding it within their body to be able to find that centeredness and make that decision from that place of internal knowing and feeling, rather than like, I should have it figured out, I should have the answer. You're never going to have the answer through shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's just never going to happen. Like,
right, yeah.
You're never going to find it through shoulda, woulda, coulda. So finding that centeredness in yourself and in your body, and sometimes and that's why I like to use other areas of your life, relationships, career, money, food, discipline, talent, wherever it is that you feel really certain and trustworthy, feel what that feels like in your body and see how you can find a way to match that feeling of certainty and trust in your body to whatever the problem it is that you're experiencing. Hey, Joshua.
That's our other day one.
Yeah, that's
hello,
that's
other
my
day
little
oneer.
brother.
How you doing? Kimberley Spencer.
I don't care who they try to send for me. Player in the game, I will orchestrate the symphony. Send the bells flying through their brain like a memory. Try to change my ways, but I guess this life was meant for me. Looking at me like the chosen one, yeah, it's meant to be. Leave them in the past, R.I.P. Man, it's history.